G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright people, midweek review time as always, sponsored by the Hit Company. Thank you very much for being on board. Obviously we know how I do these. I'm going to bring these back to the Wednesday, hopefully next week. So this will be the last kind of Thursday midweek report. I'll be back on Wednesday, hopefully next week. And if the thumbnail, see, I've got someone new doing the thumbnails now, and it's a bit of a work in progress. We're taking a few baby steps at the minute, so the thumbnail might not be what it's like. It might not sync with what's being talked about in here. I need something to chuck on as a thumbnail, so if it's not the right one, bear with us. If it is, happy days. But we have a lot of boxing news to talk about, a hell of a lot. Now, let's just start with this. Let's just start with the Fury Usyk talk. Will we start with that? That's where we're going to go with this. So, last weekend, I think it was last Monday, or it might have been Sunday or Monday, alright? We got word that if Tyson Fury versus Oleksandr Usyk, it was looking likely that it's going to be April 29th. Now, if that is the date, they're going to want to get a move on, because realistically, you probably would want about 2 months to promote it. I've said that before. For a fight of this magnitude, you probably want to get a good 2 months, maybe even a little bit more, but roughly 2 months of promotion. So, for me, the date April 29th is kind of like, oh, you're going to want to get it done now, otherwise you're going to have to push it back again. Alright, you're pushing it back, I mean, God knows what's going to happen then. Now, the Saudi deal, it appeared like that one was kind of fallen by the wayside, and there's obviously talk of Wembley Stadium. Now, more worrying was the fact that there was talk of Wembley Stadium, and there was also talk of Fury potentially fighting other opponents. You know, I think it was an article from, I can't remember who posted the article now, but it might have been Mike Coppinger or someone like that. But it was saying basically that he'd be fighting on April 29th regardless if it was Usyk. Then we started hearing rumours that there was talk about Wilder Fury 4-4, which both, funny enough, Frank Warren and trainer of Deontay Wilder, Malik Scott, have refuted. Thank God. He denied those rumours on TalkSport. As I said, thank God for that. So, it's an interesting one. Now, I did see that Oleksandr's promoter, whose name Krasok, I think it's Alexander Krasok or something like that, was at the Emirates with Frank Warren last night. Oh, I'd say Fish Eyes wasn't too pleased last night. That's how you choke if you're an Arsenal. And you know I'm telling the truth. Like, yous really gave that game. I'm not a City fan, but yous gave that game away big time. Anyway, no football talk there. So, they were at that match last night, and hopefully, I'm hoping, crossing everything, that will mean that this fight is likely to get over the line. I'm hoping that they were good negotiations, there was good talk, and that this is going to lead to something. Because I've said it once, I'll say it again. I'm not going to spend all day on this. I'm not going to go, have a long-winded, talk on this. I want to talk about other subjects in boxing and not just primarily hyper-focus on this. Fury Usyk fight has to happen, as far as I'm concerned. And I won't take anything more from either man than either man fighting the other. So if you're Oleksandr Usyk and he announces that he's going to fight, let's just say Joe Joyce, I'd be like, no, what's wrong with Fury? Why won't you fight Fury? And vice versa, if Fury announces that he's going to fight Ngannou, again, it's like, no, used to. You say you're number one in the division, there's another guy, whether you say Fury is number one or Usyk's number one, there's a claimant to that throne. How do you resolve that? You fight each other. You see who's the better guy. You have all the belts. Winner is best in the division. Winner is undisputed. And that's it. I want to see this fight. Is it commercially the biggest fight that can be made in the heavyweight division or in boxing in general? No, I would say that commercially, in my opinion, Joshua versus Wilder is still a bigger fight. Commercially, certainly, even though there's nothing on the line, I still think that it would appeal to the casuals a lot more, in my opinion. But in terms of boxing legacy, I mean, there's no bigger fight than this. There's none. The heavyweight champion, the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, arguably one of, if not the most coveted prize in sport. I want to see this. I want to see an undisputed champion, and I want to see these guys get it on. I really do. I'm not going to go and stay too long on this. Obviously, Tyson Fury did talk about the Anthony Joshua fight as well. This is a quote from the Sports Bible. I don't even go there anymore. Not interested in any AJ question. Zero. Man's dead in my eyes. There's no business between me and him. Finished. I would assume that's stemming from the fact that Eddie Hearn did actually state that there would be, like, Joshua would be willing to, or he'd be willing to get Anthony Joshua in there with Fury if the Usyk fight doesn't happen. And no sooner do I refresh this that I see a post here on Twitter by ID Boxing, and it says that it's confirming that Fury Usyk will not take place in Saudi Arabia, as the Saudis are not available to do the fight in the period of time required. Bob Arum has actually confirmed this. They are close to a deal to stage the fight at Wembley Stadium instead. So I think it was pretty kind of obvious that they were not going to do this fight, judging by some of the quotes we were seeing in Saudi. It's been confirmed there, so fight is still hopefully going to happen, but just not in Saudi. Now, as I said, I'm going to move on from this one, and once we get more news, like an announcement and stuff like that, I'll talk about it. I don't want to, as I said, hyper-focus this video on Fury Usyk. Now, Chris Eubank Jr. Now, this one got me by surprise now. Well, I suppose this didn't get me by surprise that this fight's been announced or the rematch's been activated, but the fact that Eubank has opened as betting favourite against Liam Smith, I found that a bit strange. Now, so Liam Smith is even, so he's even money, and Eubank Jr. is priced at 4-5. William Hill. Now, I'm not a big betting man, but I'd imagine, look, I personally don't think Chris Eubank Jr. is going to win this rematch. I understand why he's done it, because I said that the only real two options I would give him at this point will be a Liam Smith rematch or wait and see what happens with Billy Joe Saunders. But remember, Billy Joe Saunders is one of the most unreliable fighters out there. I mean, you know what Billy Joe Saunders is. And realistically, from a money perspective, this is really the only fight you could make. Having seen how the fight went the first time, I'd be making Liam Smith firm favourite. But if the odds are good on Eubank, I mean, it's not worth sticking a little punt on him. You know, a fiver or a tenner there if you make a little bit of, Liam Smith. If you make a little bit of money there, me thinking Eubank was the underdog there. I do find it strange that he's open as favourite. I mean, I could understand that if, as I said, it was like, I think Dylan White was favourite for Povetkin when he fought Povetkin. And I could understand it the second time. And I could understand it in that regard because he battered Povetkin. He dropped him twice in the 4th round, made a mistake in the 5th round, got caught and taken out. That much I understand, because you look at it and you say, realistically, it was one mistake. And yes, at that level, it can only take one mistake, but it was one mistake. Other than that, he was on course to win this fight handily, probably stop Povetkin. So I can understand why he was opening as favourite. With this fight, it was more in the balance. Yes, Eubank had a very good 3rd round, but he didn't drop Liam Smith in the 3rd round. He didn't buzz him. He just started to find his range with the uppercut, and he was starting to warm into the fight. And then obviously he was taken out in the 4th round. But as I said, it's not like in that 3rd round you were looking and thinking, oh, the end is nigh. You know, Liam Smith, oh, I wouldn't want to be him in that 4th round. The end is like, it wasn't like that. You could see Eubank was warming into it, but it wasn't like Liam Smith was out of his depth or anything like that in the 4th round. So I'm surprised Eubank is opening his favourite, I have to say. Not too surprised he's taking the rematch because, as I said, where else could he go? There is talk of Kell Brook coming back for a 1-fight deal to take on the winner of this fight. Kell Brook if Kell Brook had come back and fought Eubank, if Eubank could look and go down that road without going through Liam Smith, I would say maybe that's an option, possibly. But his stock would have taken a big dip from the Liam Smith fight. But the way it looks at the minute now is that the winner of this fight has another fight lined up with potentially Kell Brook. And that's a win fight for probably, well, Eubank, God knows what he's going to be like. Certainly after that knockout. But with Liam Smith, at this stage, you probably would favour Liam Smith heavily over Kell Brook. Because Kell Brook, he's been out of the ring. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, this fight happens in the summer. Let's just say it happens in August. And then Kell Brook doesn't come back until the Kell Brook, let's say Liam Smith wins. He doesn't fight Liam Smith until February 24. That's 2 years out of the ring. And we know Kell Brook doesn't live the cleanest lifestyle out of the ring. I mean, that's just a recipe for disaster right there. So I would be making the winner of this favourite over Kell Brook. But Eubank versus Smith, when we get it and where, that remains to be seen. The IBF have ordered a purse bid for their interim title at heavyweight, Filip Hrgovic and Andy Ruiz. February the 28th, it's Tuesday, 5 p.m. UK time is when the purse bid goes in. It appears to me as though the Deontay Wilder-Ruiz fight is seemingly... I'm hearing other rumours. Some people are saying that he's actually going to leave PBC altogether. Now, I don't know about that, but if he did leave PBC, I mean, where is he really realistically going to go? Would Bob Arum, would he go back to Golden Boy? Maybe. Eddie Hearn wouldn't take him, because obviously there's beef there. Deontay Wilder and Eddie Hearn. Although Eddie Hearn, you know, would he be willing to work with some... I know Billy Joe Saunders, although it was more Billy Joe's dad, who I think he threatened... Did he threaten to have a dust-up with Hearn or something like that? I know he said a lot of things about Eddie Hearn, so when Eddie Hearn actually signed Billy Joe went to Matchroom, I was kind of like, what? Not that it wasn't a good move, I was just kind of like, after all that was said, really? So maybe he would be, but I know with Wilder, I get the impression Eddie Hearn really doesn't like Deontay Wilder, so I don't know if that would work. But I wouldn't be shocked if Wilder goes to one of those streaming websites where they pay him a crazy amount of money to have an easy fight and then happy days. And maybe that's what his team are looking at. Maybe his team are thinking, do you know what? Terence Crawford got paid $10 million to fight David Avanesian. Triller they were paying Michael Hunter, the guy who said he'd fight anyone in the heavyweight division for free, were paying him crazy money to fight a couple of journeymen and Jerry Forrest. Maybe they're looking at that and thinking, do you know what, let's just go down the easy road. One of these streaming sites are going to get the bag out. We'll take it. Who are we going to fight? We're going to fight Gerald Washington again? Yeah, we'll do it. Happy days. Maybe they're looking to do that. Maybe. Eddie Hearn, actually, speaking to him and signings, this is a bit of a head scratcher, right? So, Eddie Hearn has signed Edgar Berlanga on a multi-fight deal with Matchroom and DAZN. Moving forward, they plan for him to eventually face Canelo Alvarez. Now, I was watching Hatman's video on this, and he said that one of the reasons that Berlanga stated why he left Top Rank was that they weren't moving him quick enough. Now, I've talked about Berlanga before on this channel, and as many of you will know, I haven't done any reviews of him, but I've been asked about him, and I knew about him prior to his fight. I think it was Damon Nicholson, and that was the first fight where he went the distance. And even before that, because he went something like 16-0 with 16 knockouts all in the first round. And although on paper that sounds impressive, he didn't impress me an inch in any of those fights. And since then, he's looked really shaky, like even more shaky than I thought he would. I mean, seriously, this guy is a recipe for disaster. He is. Eddie Hearn is going to want to be careful, because if Eddie Hearn is going to be... So if he's saying that he wasn't matched, he wasn't being brought along quick enough, right? If Eddie Hearn's going to bring him on quick, I just think that's a bad idea, because this guy is asking for an L. I mean, arguably, he fought on the Wilder Fury 3 undercard. And I always forget this guy's name. I think it's Carrasas or something like that. Marcelos Carrasas or something like that. Caracas. He's an Argentinian fighter. He's really a middleweight who campaigns at super middle. He's really a middleweight. He fought Billy Joe Saunders on the Jake Paul Logan Paul undercard, you know, when they had that big YouTube show where Devin Haney fought on it as well. He fought Billy Joe Saunders, and arguably you could say he was winning the fight until Billy Joe Saunders knocked him out in the 11th. He fought Berlanga on the undercard of Fury Wilder 3. He dropped Berlanga, and arguably he won the fight. I know many people felt he won the fight, and that's a tiny, and you could see the size difference. It was crazy in the ring. That's a small guy at 168 pounds, really a middleweight, dropping Berlanga and beating him. You know, he didn't get the decision, but for all intents and purposes, he beat Berlanga. I've never been impressed with Edgar Berlanga. He looks fairly crap, to be honest with you. He's not got a particularly high ceiling. So, to talk of Canelo, I mean, if he did fight Canelo, he would get absolutely annihilated early. But I reckon he's going to take an L before he even gets there. Because I think with Top Rank, they didn't move him fast. Although I thought they even there was talk of Jesse Hart at one point. Even I was like, oh, he's not going to beat Jesse Hart. I know Jesse Hart doesn't have a lot of heart, but he's still a lot better than Edgar Berlanga. Much better. And I was like, they're doing a fine job with him, you know, for what they have. But if he wants to go and get fast-tracked, I mean, that's a recipe for disaster right there. So we'll see. This fight right here, I like this fight. Joseph Parker versus Michael Hunter is in talks to happen in the UK next and getting close to becoming a done deal. Hunter also, I remember Martin Bacoli, I think, was saying that he was looking to rematch Michael Hunter, and Hunter kind of laughed at that. But Joseph Parker versus Michael Hunter, oh, I like that fight. You know, Michael Hunter, I feel for him in a way, because he was really screwed over by Hughie Fury over the last year. You know, they signed to fight, I think it was July the 2nd of last year. Fury pulled out. Fine, they rescheduled it for October, the end of October. What happens? Hughie Fury pulls out. I don't even know whether Hughie Fury is coming back or not. He's been out of the ring. Like, he didn't fight at all in 22. How many did he have in 21? He didn't have many in 21, didn't he not? So Hughie Fury, I mean, Ben Shalom, he didn't exactly strike gold when he signed Hughie Fury at this stage. And you know, Fury, remember at one stage, because he's pro now roughly a decade. There was talk of him breaking Tyson's record. Remember that, when he turned over first? And it was apparent from early on that was never going to happen. And then it was like, they tried their best. Like, any opportunity they were given, or he was even presented himself, even if it was a British, European, or world. No, we're not going down that road. Until basically they got a crack at a world title. And then for the last few years, they've been using his age. Well, Fury's got to be pushing 30 now. So the age thing, saying, he's only young, I mean, that's gonzo. I really don't know what's happening with Hughie Fury at this stage. I really don't. It's bizarre. Not that, look, Hughie Fury has talent in the sense that he's a decent mover. I'll admit that he's a decent mover, but he's a very, very negative style. And he's been on some weird shows. Like, he's been on Mick Hennessy shows. He's been on shows over in Saudi Arabia on Channel 5. He's been on Sky, DAZN. It's crazy. We'll see what happens with him. But in terms of Parker versus Hunter, I mean, I love that fight. It's a great fight. I'd be making Michael Hunter favourite. I think that's his coming out party of heavyweight. I know what you're going to say, but gee, like, look at him against Jerry Ford. I know, yeah. I think that was more so the fact that he beat him handily early on and maybe underestimated Forrest. I think that's more what it was, to be honest with you. Now, you're going to laugh at this one. And you're not going to laugh because it's funny. You're going to laugh by how ridiculous it is. Our good friend, Mauricio Sullivan, one of the biggest scumbags in boxing. Maybe even the biggest. In fact, it's really a flip of a coin between him and Lou DiBella, really. Announced that Jake Paul will be ranked for the WBC Cruiserweight title with the World Rankings if he beats Tommy Fury. I like Tommy Fury, Jake Paul. I like the fight. Right? I think it's a fun, entertaining fight. Jake Paul has beaten Tyron Woodley, an MMA guy, an old, very old Anderson Silva, Ben Askren, and that's it. How does that justify him getting a world ranking? Explain that to me, how you can justify and how you as a sanctioning body can claim to have any credibility when you give someone a world ranking based off of that. And you could say, well, he beat Tommy Fury. Who the hell is Tommy Fury beat? He's 8 fights in. 4 of those haven't even registered a pro win and have double-digit losses. Now you tell me, with a straight face, how you can defend that from the WBC. That's a joke. It really does show that Sullivan really is. I'm not going to go there, but he really is a you-know-what. And he'll do that. Statement. If Jake Paul wins versus Tommy Fury, the WBC will rank him in the Cruiserweight rankings. Jake has been close to WBC for several years, has he now? The WBC will not tolerate discrimination against anyone who deserves the opportunity than any other boxer has. Well, a lot of other boxers have beaten a lot more live opponents than Jake Paul has beaten. And they've actually had, some of them, have had, decent level. Not to put it like this, right? If you're a British level fighter, like, you look at, like, I know these are probably all ranked, but like you look at like Chris Billum Smith, people like that. I know it's probably a poor, they're probably all ranked, but I'm trying to think of some cruiserweights who are kind of on the come up. They've probably beaten some like domestic level cruiserweights, people like that. Chamberlain, for argument's sake, like Chamberlain, I don't believe is ranked by the WBC, or if he is, he's low down. Imagine Jake Paul goes in ahead of Isaac Chamberlain or someone like that. Someone whose last fight was a brilliant fight against Chris Billum Smith, whose only losses have come at, a guy who's now a world champion and a guy who's definitely knocking at the door of European level at the least. To rank Jake Paul ahead of him, crazy. And yeah, to point this out, Ilunga Makabu was defending his world title on the undercard against Badu Jack. Just throwing that out there. WBO have now officially... now hang on a minute. This is interesting. The WBO have now officially ordered Josh Taylor to defend his WBO super lightweight world title against Teofimo Lopez next. It's been reported the pair are close to negotiating the deal for May the 27th or July the 3rd in Scotland. Didn't they order a rematch with Jack Catterall? Have they thrown Jack Catterall under the bus now for this? Because that's the way it sounds like. That's the only title left. Now, I know some people are going to say, well, gee, Jack Catterall's going to get his crack at Regis Prograis. It's a very tough fight. It's a tougher fight than Josh Taylor in many ways now at this stage, you'd argue. I mean, it's like you want to fight for... Okay, the guy you want to fight and the guy you really should have got your rematch against who held you up for the last year, he's now going to fight Teofimo Lopez and you want to fight for a title. So who are you going to fight? You're going to fight Regis Prograis, arguably a harder fight than both of them. It's... yeah, not ideal if you're Jack Catterall. It really isn't. It really isn't. Now, Robert Smith, I've seen this. Now, as many of you know, I'm not Robert Smith's biggest fan. I believe he is the secretary, for the British Boxing Board of Control. He was on TalkSport yesterday and he has insisted that Conor Benn will not be approved to fight on a British Boxing Board of Control sanctioned show in the UK, even with a foreign licence, until he proves his innocence to the British Boxing Board of Control and UKAD following his positive drugs test. Now that's interesting because, as I've been saying for several months now, this whole Eddie Hearn, Conor Benn, WBC investigation, 270-page dossier, this is completely irrelevant. Because the WBC, if they did ban Conor Benn, all they do, and by the way, they're investigating the failed drugs test that happened in July, which is part of the WBC Clean Boxing Programme. The one that UKAD and the British Boxing Board of Control are looking into are the one that happened going into the Eubank Jr. fight. Now, as I've said several times, the WBC, if they ban Conor Benn, that has literally no effect on him. Right? It means nothing. All it means is that he can't partake in WBC sanctioned bouts. He won't be entering their rankings. He can't fight for the world title, a silver title, etc., an interim title, etc. That's all it means. He's be free to fight for the WBA, the IBF, the WBO, could fight in Australia, wherever. It's irrelevant. The UKAD one is a lot more serious because that would mean that he wouldn't be able to fight on what they're saying here until he proves his innocence. And we obviously know there was that report going where it said that the dossier, the 270-page dossier that he gave into the WBC, when UKAD came looking non-compliant. Now, what does that tell you? I think that this whole thing has been handled terribly from a PR point of view by Eddie Hearn and largely by Conor Benn himself. Conor Benn, I've said it once, I'll say it again, he doesn't come across as the sharpest tool in the box, to say the least. And I think with the way... you look at this whole situation. Look at Tyson Fury, right? We know Tyson Fury failed a drug test in the Christian Hammer fight. That was public knowledge. Although, saying that, it was public knowledge over a year after the fact, which is that's a real eyebrow raiser, the fact that they let it go that long. But whatever you want to say about that, when all this was going on, was Tyson Fury active on social media? Yes, he was. But all he was doing was showing footage of himself training, out with Billy Joe. He was never even alluding at the investigation that was ongoing. He was never bringing it up. He was never saying anything. Conor Benn has been the polar opposite. He keeps putting his goddamn foot in it every chance he gets. And it looks ridiculous. And all he's done, if he'd have just said nothing at all, it would have been better. Because now he's just looking like a petulant little child. That's really what he's looking like. I think Pep Guardiola, when this whole Manchester City spending controversy came out, he wrote somewhere saying, someone, I think it was the Lad's Bible or Sports Bible, said you're innocent until proven guilty, and he was like, not in the UK. And it's like, mate, your own promoter even said it. You are guilty until proven innocent. How do you not get that? That's so basic. Just again, the whole situation, I'm not going to go in depth on it, but from a PR point of view, it's not been good for Eddie Hearn and Conor Benn, in my opinion. And I think the best thing, I really don't know. If they're planning on doing stuff in the UK and bringing him back to the UK to fight, if they can't get him in on a foreign licence, I know he's a citizen in Australia and he can fight there, and Eddie Hearn's doing a lot more shows there, so that might be his saving grace. But realistically, like if I was in Team Benn, I'd be just saying, you see this here, and you see this here, yeah, use this for making calls and maybe watching a YouTube video. Don't use it for putting your foot in it, and this, just keep it. When it comes to UCAD and all that, just quiet. It's the best thing to do, because all this is done by putting your foot in it and talking. It's just been a disaster from a PR point of view. Seriously, and all you've done, again, like all they've done is made themselves look even more suspicious. And when you hear stuff like, they sent this to WBC but not to UCAD, and trying to always, the WBC's investigate, etc., etc. It's like, no elephant in the room, and it's quite a large elephant. UCAD, British Boxing Board of Control. So that's the situation there. I don't know, let's see what happens. I've seen a Coley and React poor, very poor. Like, you can't really see the quality on this, but apparently they got into a bit of an altercation. I think Reactport charged at Lawrence Coley at the premiere of Creed 3 in London yesterday evening. Interesting. I mean, I know Sky are looking to get those guys in the ring together, and yeah, we'll see. Bit of tension arising. Reactport is from London, isn't he? Whereabouts is Reactport? From Crystal Palace in London, and Coley's from London as well. I'm not sure where he's from. Interesting here, the price of the Jake Paul Tommy Fury pay-per-view, 20 quid, £19, 95 pence. I really did think that would be a lot dearer than that. I thought that they'd go full-blown Fury Chisora and charge nearly £28, but no, £20, essentially £20. I mean, I think in Ireland it'd be about €24.99, roughly, when it's about roughly that with the exchange rate. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I must add, at the end of this video, we are doing a live watch along, of course, on Saturday. If I don't do any videos, which I should hopefully get one out tomorrow, between now and then, we will chat to you Saturday evening. Lee Wood, Mauricio Lara, lads, I can't wait for this fight. I cannot flipping wait. I'm looking forward to this fight so much. So let me know your thoughts on everything I've talked about in this video, your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, smash the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. For now, lads and lassies, I will talk to you. Peace.